Hey guys, what's up? Liv here. In this video I'm going to talk about Terraria. Now this video is made for people who have never played the game and are considering giving it a try. I have played Terraria for a bit over 70 hours now. This is not a game review per se, as I'm not a professional gaming journalist nor an aspiring one. So what is Terraria in short? It's a sandbox game. Now, I've known about Terraria since the year 2012, but I've only played it first this year. In February I started with it. Because in 2012 I didn't really get this whole idea behind sandbox games. Minecraft was all the rage back then and it's still a very popular game. And Terraria was at the time similar to Minecraft. In the meanwhile, it has gone off its separate path in a way. But I remember playing the first iteration of the Sims series 20 years ago. It was the year 2000. And the discussion back then was, is the Sims a game really? Or is it a virtual dollhouse? So is it a game with objectives, clear progression path, an end game, or is it more of a toy that was meant by a virtual dollhouse? And I think this is the whole idea behind sandbox games. They become very popular in the last 10 years with many indie developers getting into this scene. In sandbox games you need to set your own objectives, and there is no clear end game in them. Now what I like about Terraria, as opposed to, let's say, Minecraft, is that it does have a clear progression path, in that you fight increasingly difficult bosses, and there is an end boss, so to speak, the Moon Lord. And once you beat the Moon Lord, you get into what you would call the end game. But the game never really ends, and there is no story whatsoever. So you make your own kind of story, and each player's experience is different. Now, getting into more detail, Terraria is similar to Minecraft in that you mine, of course. You gather materials you use to build stuff, like houses where you can house other NPCs as well, so merchants, NPCs from which you can buy different items. And then you also get item drops from various mobs in the world, bosses, and so on and so forth. And you use all these items, all these materials to craft increasingly powerful items. The game loop itself is something like you beat a boss, and then you are gated into some requirements. You have to meet some gear checks, some events that you have to go through in order to activate the next boss and beat it. And then the loop repeats itself. Now what is interesting about Terraria is that it's quite combat oriented, and there's a plethora of mobs to defeat and bosses. And what Realogic, the developer, has done really well is the animations, the fights are very fluid. It's something you would expect from a platformer game, which was made only for, you know, climbing stuff, acrobatics, and fighting different mobs, of course. Now, this is very difficult to achieve. Fluid animations, responsive fights, to actually make it dynamic and not feel clunky, like, you know, everything is made out of cardboard. This is very important, especially in a game with this kind of graphics. Don't get me wrong, the graphics are quite quaint and cartoony, and there's a certain aesthetic to it. But you know, it's something you find in many indie games, and especially over the last 5 to 10 years, many indie developers have used this pixelated art style, and I understand why that is. Of course, it's a lack of monetary resources and time resources as well. Let's remember, Terraria started off as a project for a team made out of only 3 people. And what we've achieved with it is quite phenomenal, because in the last 9 years, Terraria has received a large number of substantial updates for free. So Terraria has no paid DLCs. You can get the game on Steam for only $10. Hell, I've got it last December, I think, on a sale for $5. And considering you pay $10 for it and you can play over 100 hours, you can't get much more bang for your buck with any other game, I believe. So that's great. But going back to the graphics, you get tired of this pixelated art style. I was actually reading an article saying that in PC Gamer it was, that indie developers are considering moving on to a graphic style similar to the first PlayStation games. So the first 3D games, let's say in '96 and of the '90s, with characters made out of only a few hundred polygons or so. Because the pixelated art style has been overdone already. But the graphics suit the game really well, and you can get a lot of nice colors out of it. It does have dynamic lighting, a physics engine for fluids, water and lava. So it's quite all you need for the purpose of the game, at least. Now, what I like about Terraria as opposed to, let's say, Minecraft, is that it's a bit easier to grasp because it's a 2D game. It doesn't hold your hand or tell you what to do, but because there's also this clear progression path, and you can see it in the playlist I've done up to and including the Wall of Flesh boss, which basically unlocks the hard mode for you. I did follow a progression path out of the official Terraria wiki, and because building stuff in it is a bit more intuitive and easier to grasp, I think it's a great game to, for example, play with your kids, build stuff together with them. And I think this is the strong point of a game like Terraria. It's great to play with friends. You can play up to 3 other friends, so 4 players in total in co-op, and each can build their own houses and towns and stuff like that. Of course, you can fight bosses together, explore together, and there's a lot of shenanigans you can do to each other. It's quite an experience. So that's another thing to do if you're interested in starting the game. Now, what to do in the game is really up to you. But if you decide to follow the progression itself and maybe go up to the Moonlord and defeat that boss as well, you could play for anywhere between 50 and 100 hours. It depends really. So I've played the game for 75 hours, and I've only finished let's say the first third of the game, and I've only unlocked the hard mode, beating the Wall of Flesh. But I do believe I've done pretty much there is to do in the easy mode, so the mode before the hard mode itself. And there are other 2/3 of the game waiting for you after the Wall of Flesh. So quite a lot to do. It can take a lot of time because the game does impose quite a lot of grind from your side. Mining a lot, gathering materials, exploring for different things like you will see in the videos I've done, like for the crystal hearts to increase your HP, hunting for fallen stars to increase your mana pool, and gathering different materials to craft a better armor, or searching for a certain NPC which is you find him or herself bound. It can be anywhere underground, on top of the ground, so this will also take a lot of time. It's not only combat and bosses and instant gratification, and I've used the Terraria wiki a lot to understand what I can do with a certain item that dropped for me, or what's next for me once I've beaten, I don't know, the first boss, the Eye of Cthulhu, or the second one, the Brain of Cthulhu, or the Destroyer of Worlds. Okay, what else? The world you drop in, there's no story about it really, but you can guess that it's beset by a lot of evil forces that try to take over it, and you always feel kind of numerically outnumbered, and you feel like you're in a survival game a la Minecraft. And the world is always randomly generated. You can pick between three sizes: small, medium, and large. I've played on a medium world, and I think it's more than enough for one player. I think a medium world can easily accommodate up to 4 players in total if you want to actually move faster and get to the end game faster. As mentioned, Terraria is only $10 on Steam, and all the updates it has received over the years are available to you for free. You get automatically updated once you install the game. And the last major update, confirmed by Relogic officially, was launched in May this year, and it's aptly called The Journey's End, Terraria version 1.4. They've added 2 new bosses, a lot of items, new NPCs and other events, so a lot of stuff. By Journey's End they mean that they will probably stop adding major updates to the game. Relogic is surely planning to work on other projects as well. What I've seen over the years, and it's actually funny because Relogic did say years back, even in 2012, I think they said that, okay guys, this is the last content update for the game, we are not going to do anything else about it. But the game surged in popularity, and then Relogic decided to add more content and add more content, but this time I think it's for real, and we'll probably see some other great projects from Relogic in the future. I'm quite excited to see what will come next. So it's a game that you should try. But coming back to the Sims discussion, is it a game or is it a toy? I do feel like it's a game, because it does have a lot of combat, a lot of objectives, a lot of memorable boss fights, so you don't feel like you're just playing with Legos, just to build something and then break it up back into pieces and build something else. There is building, there is crafting items, interacting with NPCs, but there's also a lot of combat, boss fights, increasingly powerful armor, weapons, insane combination of items and things you can achieve, like flying around with wings, shooting Gatling guns and lasers, combining the physics of the game with different items, like a lance, a jousting lance, and using water or anything like that to propel yourself, and as you propel yourself faster, then the lance does increasingly higher damage. And Terraria is actually a very fun game to exploit. The game doesn't punish you for it, it actually encourages creativity. So I've seen a player fighting the Brain of Cthulhu boss. This is the second boss. If you spawn in a Crimson World, you'll see what that is in the videos I've made. But what he did was he summoned the boss, and the boss can teleport around. And before summoning the boss, this guy built like a box with different levels, and he just threw around something called spike bombs. It's like sticky bombs, something like that. And then the boss teleported inside and died almost instantly, because all the bombs exploded, were triggered by the boss in it. So you can build platforms to run around and fight bosses where is more convenient for you, so you don't encounter other mobs that attack you or fall into a ravine, something like that. So Terraria gives you a lot of opportunity to experiment, build all kinds of wacky stuff, and even exploit like boss fights, mob fights, and so on and so forth. So it really encourages creativity, which I don't think many games do. Terraria really allows for you to be creative, because there are not so many restrictions in the system. Of course, many games say they are sandbox games, but in the end you can't do just whatever you think you can do, you can imagine you can do, but you have to do it within the confines of the gaming system itself. So is Terraria worth it? I've had a lot of fun with it, I can tell you, and I think it's a game for all ages, for all age groups really. You should try it because you won't be disappointed. You'll find something to do, whatever type of player you are. If you are a fighter, an explorer, a collector or crafter, if you enjoy mining and the grind itself, if you're a builder, and it's best shared with friends and family, of course, so you should give it a go. Okay guys, that's it from me regarding Terraria. You can find a playlist of about 40 videos on the channel where I go from the beginning, the absolute beginning, up to and including the wall of flesh boss. That's about 1/3 of the game. Then you enter the mid game in hard mode, and after that, where you are preparing to beat the Moon Lord, you would be closer to the end game. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. If you like this kind of content and like to see more, make sure to subscribe to this channel, and yeah, give this video a like, a comment, as the usual. These things help out a lot, of course. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye bye.